everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of our Kodocha podcast, 7 o'clock news or 19 o'clock news, depending on where you are in the world.
Yes, welcome. So today we want to talk about episode 8, the fruit juice soaked first kiss. And you'll notice in past podcasts, we've said that we are going to just do important episodes or notable Kodocha episodes. But we did go from episode 6 to episode 8, which is somewhat linear. So to recap episode 7, Akito stays home from school sick and watches and rewatches Sauna's TV movie, confirming to the audience that he has fallen for her.
Yes. I actually missed this episode the first time I watched Kodocha because I couldn't find it anywhere on YouTube at the time. So I just ended up skipping it. And so I actually missed that scene through my first watch through. So, which kind of is weird looking back on it because it's a very important moment.
I would agree because obviously episode 6 and episode 8 are fantastic episodes, which is why we're doing whole podcast episodes on them. But that little scene really ties together the events of the two episodes. I don't know. I can't imagine approaching episode 7 or like approaching episode 8, and then I feel like that kiss would really feel out of nowhere. Or even like the conversation about like being rivals that him and Tsuyoshi have would seem really out of nowhere.
Yeah, which
right?
It was it's hard to say because it almost I wouldn't say it added to the suspense, I guess you'd say. But it did surprise me and made me want to watch it, like continue the series. I guess that sounds really weird, but I could tell though from the beginning that like that was probably what was going to happen, so it wasn't like a huge surprise. But I feel like I would have rather had seen that, him rewinding the tape scene for context. I feel like that would have been added more to it, which during my second watch through it did, and in a weird way I'm kind of glad that I saw that the second time because it was more meaningful. That sounds really weird, but
no, I think I totally understand that. The context is important. I mean, well, also like you know this. Episode 8 was my very first episode of Kodocha that I ever saw. I happened to catch it on the Funimation channel, probably like maybe not halfway through the episode. I think I picked up maybe the last like 5 to 7 minutes. I think it was. I remember basically watching them walk to the Tokyo Metropolitan building. Like that, I think that's where I came in on that episode when I happened to catch it.
At the very
truly no context. Like, and that's also, it's funny looking back at, what you learn from just the last like 10 minutes of that episode. And it's not much, because like the conversation that they're having on the way to the building about like Rey and stuff, like I did not know what was happening with that.
Right.
Sauna makes repeated references to Akito's fear of heights. No clue what was going on with that. I was just like, I like these characters. I think I'm going to look up this show and then obsess over it for roughly 20 years.
Yep. I'm on year 6 or 7 now, so I'm getting there.
You are. Yeah, so I guess like rewind. That was a rewind sound, in case you were unsure.
You did a good job.
Thank you. Something my notes here are extremely stupid. Please laugh at me.
Ha 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 ha.
Thank you. You're wonderful. So Sauna is so like, especially that first scene with her and Rey and Sako, she's so it's so funny because she is so generally so mature, but she's so childish in this episode. Like Rey is my boyfriend. And it was just an interesting reminder that she's young and that she's always kind of treated Rey as one of her toys. And then, of course, in big notes, I wrote child's toy. I figured it out. I don't know. What did you think about just how Sauna was acting at the beginning of the episode?
Well, actually, I'd like to mention that whole child's toy thing because that was something, for some reason, I never really picked up on strongly. It was during my reading of the manga, and it didn't hit me that like that kind of ties into the whole overarching theme of like Sauna learning how to love people.
Mm.
And it further conveys the message that she didn't really love Rey romantically.
Mhm.
The fact that she just saw him, as Mama put it, as her favorite toy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. And that was a really interesting detail that I never caught before for some reason.
Oh, no, completely. Honestly, same. Like I always the title of the series, I wouldn't say like because Obana kind of references it sometimes in her author's notes, like, like it's about like adults being children's toys, I guess, so to speak. But I hadn't really made the very literal connection of it being, I guess, about Rey. So maybe Rey is actually the main character because he is the child's toy.
Ooh.
Oh, that's me joking again.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first time I had that particular realization too. It's one of the things I'm really enjoying about us going through these episodes and discussing them in more detail is I'm definitely through talking with you and others like almost learning more about the series because I've been perceiving it somewhat the same way every time I watch it, you know?
Yeah, and I have to wonder if Obana did all of this intentionally. Like, did she sit down and like literally put together all these little details she was going to throw in there that were very subtle, or did it just happen that way? Like, I would love to talk
Yeah.
to her about the creative process she had when
Oh
she was
man,
writing
same.
Kodocha.
Well, it's so funny too because like in her author's notes and stuff, she'll say like, "Oh, I'm really hoping to make it to 3 volumes. Oh, now that I'm here, I get to add new characters." So that's when she invented Naozumi and Fuka
Mhm.
and things like that, and it went, I think, longer than she could have predicted at the outset as a series. So, and I love the twists and turns.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I'm working on a video for not this week but next week, and I actually touch a bit on the themes that we're talking about in this episode today.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, this story is the best coming of age story that I've read in any anime of this genre, shoujo.
Mm.
Because it's one of the only ones I feel like it just conveys it from all different angles. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't just have one theme that's consistent through the whole thing. It really touches on a lot of different things that have to do with growing up and overcoming your childhood innocence.
Oh, 100%. This is something I feel generally about Obana, actually, is like, I don't know if you feel this way, but like, I've read a lot of shoujo manga, and I always kind of, you ever like, sometimes you read a series that has like romance as its center, and you're like, I don't think this author knows what this feels like, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember even like being very young and kind of being in the throes of some of the stuff that Sana goes through at the time, but like really feeling like Obana gets it. Like
Hmm.
she knows what like what all of these feelings feel like, down to like I know she knows, I know she's been in love. Like I can like I've always felt like you can feel that through the artwork, and she's felt, physical attraction. She's felt like that emotional frustration. She's felt all of these feelings. They feel very authentic to me coming from her. I don't know if that
Yeah,
makes
same
sense.
here. Yeah, definitely. In one of her notes in the manga, she says that when she was writing the characters of Sana and Nikito, she said that she is like both of them. Like
Mm.
she mentions how she's like Sana, and then the fact that she tries to find the positive in every situation, but she's also like Akito and like the way she thinks about things.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so good, is because she took her parts of herself and turned them into characters, basically.
Ugh, could wax poetic about the fantastic writing of Kodocha for days.
So
Uh,
let's
back to the episode.
yes. So another thing that we learn at the end of episode 7, which was heavily foreshadowed, we probably saw it coming. I was like really dense to it the first time I watched it, and I was kind of like, oh, that's why Ray's been running away all the time.
That's actually something too. With you skipping episode 7, you have no build up to what happens with Asako and Ray in that alleyway. You just
Yeah.
pick up with his glasses being off. That's
Yeah.
stressful. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Also, I for one love that reveal of Ray's glasses. I love that shot of them falling to the ground and cracking. I think that's one of my favorite shots of these early episodes. But I also
Yeah,
just love the
it's
kind of deadpan, like, this is my face. Or like I think in the manga it's like, look, a normal face.
yeah. And I actually like his English dialogue better. He just looks
Oh
at the
yeah.
camera and says, "Sorry, kids, I'm not hideous."
And in fact, is kind of yummy.
Yeah, I
And we never
honestly
acknowledge
like,
how yummy Ray is ever again.
yeah, because we're so fixated on Aikido that it's
It's
like,
true. This also just might be like me aging, but I'm like, oh, an adult character. Interesting. I love that scene. I also I have to make one little Japanese versus English translation comment. I understand why this was changed because they don't acknowledge honorifics in the dub of Kodocha, like, which is fine. I'm making my peace with it. But I think it's like the line for me in the Japanese, it's so freaking funny, is when Rei is like Asako and Sana goes, Asako with no honorific? Is so excellent. It's
yeah,
just
I really like that too.
saying the
It
quiet
added
part
to the
out loud.
scene. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Because I love the something I really love about Kodocha too is I'm about to get all theater major. So fourth wall breaks, which the show does pretty frequently. But I do feel when I was in theater college, we talked a lot about how like it shouldn't be a fourth wall, it should be a fourth side. Because if you're putting up a wall between yourself and the audience, then they're not going to be able to connect with the theatrical piece, right? Maybe that's a little silly, but I do kind of subscribe to that belief that we should stop referring to it as a fourth wall. And I do feel like Kodocha does a great job of like that kind of wink to the camera just every now and again. That's so funny and just really, really an excellent use of that device, I guess.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that. I've heard of fourth wall breaking, but I never heard of fourth side. That's
Yes.
really interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think Kodocha does a great job of pulling you in. I understand why it was cut, but I just think that line is so freaking funny. And I think they changed it to just like, she's your ex-girlfriend, which works great actually. I love that.
Me too.
Ah,
So we find out that Rei and Asako had a relationship when they were in high school, and that Asako broke up with Rei. I believe it was during episode 7 that we find out. Believe it was through the interview that Sauna had with Asako that Rei was homeless for a while.
That's the interesting thing too. I'm skipping around a bit, I'm sorry, but in the manga I love that Sana goes and pulls her diary from the year that she found Rei, which is 2 years previously. So I love those flashbacks because like she looks, I would have guessed 5, 6, but she's actually 11 and it was 2 years ago, so she would have been 9, which is, so my question is like, so Rei graduates high school, like how much time passes between graduating high school and Asako like leaving him and him becoming homeless? Is it 1 year? Is it like 2 years? So there's only 2 years that he's been with the Karatas. So I don't know. Is he between 20, 22, 23? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe some weird little error there. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I love Obana, but sometimes the math doesn't work. I'm trying not to be a super painstaking about it.
Yeah,
but it's just an observation.
It's a mistake that can look past pretty easily.
Yeah.
I mean, the writing's that good. It doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't. It's just interesting to me because it's in the manga. It is a bit more explicit, like, 2 years ago. And it's like, okay, so it really has only been a couple of years. And I think prior to, I'd never really processed that line that way before. So I'd always assumed that Rei had been with them longer. It wasn't until like really kind of absorbing that I realized that it's actually a relatively short period of time.
So anything else that you had to add about the episode 7 recap?
Oh, I was already kind of talking about some episode 8 stuff. But
true. It kind of bleeds in, like the end of 7 bleeds into the beginning of 8 because I'm
ready to dive the rest of the way into the beginning of 8.
All right, cool.
They cut my favorite line from this episode, which is I feel like I'm the heroine of a shoujo manga.
Oh yeah.
I'm devastated. It was so funny. Like, I'm so mad. It's fine. Like, and I like the way the Tokyo Pop translated it for the manga, which is like, I feel like the hero of a romance comic book. I'm like, yeah, you could have done that. You could have done that, Funimation. Why didn't you do that? Just cut the line entirely. Whatever. It's fine. I'm fine.
It's like they almost feel like they have to like dumb it down.
Yes.
That's how it feels.
I agree. I think it's one of those things where it's like, this happened like 10 plus years ago, and I really do need to let it go, because they don't do that anymore. Clearly, all of these conversations have like led somewhere that has resulted in a big change to how we do dubbing, right? And manga translations. So I'm like getting mad about decisions that were made 20 plus years ago, and I need to let it go, because it's like they heard us, they've stopped doing that, but I'm still mad.
Yeah, I get it. I feel the same way. Like, as someone who's and I've never seen the original, but I read things about it. I'm in the middle of watching Fruits Basket right now.
Yes,
The
you are.
2019 version. I'm almost the end of season 1, and I'm noticing like, they're actually they're using honorifics at points, and
Yeah.
they're actually like saying, what things actually would be, if they were in Japan.
Yes.
And I know that like there's some things in the older version that they didn't do right, and I was very impressed with that. Like, I'm glad that we're going that direction now in the anime industry.
Oh, same. Well, especially because we've had this conversation before, so I'm gonna try not to like harp on this too much. But it's such a frequently used plot point, especially in shoujo, that it's like very important to me that they preserve that and find a way to make that work in English. Because I guess, okay, season 1, no spoilers, but I guess have you met Hatsuharu yet?
He's the cow, right?
Yes.
Yep, I have.
Okay, so like I love that episode where, because like in like how do you do that in English, Toru calling Yuki by his first name for the first time without doing it like her calling him by his first name for the first time. Like there's just
Yeah.
there's not a way to do that in English. And if we ever get to the episode where Akito calls Sauna by her first name for the first time, I'm going to rant for 15 minutes about the hey girl of Tokyo Pop's choice. I'm never not going to be mad about. It's fine. I'm fine. Anyway, I feel like I keep getting off track.
Oh, it's fine. I honestly, like, if I were a listener to this podcast, I would like all the randomness, but that's just me.
Oh man, we're just following in the footsteps of our girl Sana Karada, really.
Exactly.
Every time we get sidetracked.
So, one thing that I wanted to bring up about the episode versus the manga, was we get more of a glimpse of Akito and Tsuyoshi's friendship in the manga, especially like when they, there's a scene that's not in the anime where they're talking in Akito's room, and they're talking about
the scene so much.
They're talking a little bit about the Rey situation, and there's something a little scene in there that I wish could have been in the anime. It was really cute and silly, and I believe it's Tsuyoshi. He asks Akito, "You gotta choose your best friend or a girl," and Akito goes, "That's easy, a girl."
I know. I love it so much. I think that was I want to say that scene is what inspired me to go through and scan a bunch of chunks of the manga for Daily Kodocha. Like that was the scene where I was like, I gotta put this on the internet. Like this is too good. It's too funny. Like
right.
we gotta do that. I gotta do that right now. I love that scene so much. I agree. It is like sad we don't get more of Akito and Tsuyoshi's friendship. And another friendship that we kind of miss out on in this episode is Rei and Misako. Like I love that scene where they come home and Sana's kind of like heading off to her room, and Misako and Rei are like whispering, and Misako's like, "You used to date a Sako Kurumi?" Like, I don't know. I envision them like hanging out after Sana goes to bed, not like in a in a very friendshipy way, like having their tea or their coffee or perhaps something stronger, and just being besties. That's my headcanon anyway.
Yeah, it definitely adds, like, if you've seen the anime first, like I feel like the relationships in the manga just add on and build on those relationships, the foundations, and I really like that. And again, I wish the details would have been animated, but it is what it is.
It's one of those things where it's like, I guess like I have to like forgive the mediums for being different, because like on one hand, what Obana can like do kind of a throwaway side panel on, like, and it can be like, you know, an inch by an inch of a cute moment, and then we can move on with the story fairly quickly after like reading and absorbing it. You know, to animate that just takes more time. And, you know, you as somebody who edits video, me as somebody who edits video, like, you know, like the fractions of a fraction of a second can like make all of the difference in how you time something, right?
Oh yeah.
And so like I get it, but I still kind of wish we had gotten more of those pieces, as opposed to like some of the more zany things that like can take away from those in terms of time. I'm mostly thinking of like the very end of the episode where like Rey ends up getting like almost hit by a car, and like the truck rolls over and like the fire hydrant goes off. I'm like, I would have maybe made that scene that little chunk half as long to get, you know, Akito and Tsuyoshi in his bedroom, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One last little note on the like Asako Rey Sauna stuff is this the first episode that plays Goodbye My Love?
Yes, I actually wrote that down because I thought that was very significant. I feel like it's the one of only 2 or 3, because we don't really hear it again after the whole Rey situation resolves itself.
That was what I was going to ask, because I didn't really, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of animes like have like a sad song that plays in the background sometimes. But until I got the Kodocha soundtrack and started listening to it on a more regular basis, like I didn't really notice that song that much. So I can't think of any other episodes it's in off the top of my head. Can you? Like,
Yeah,
do you know where else it is?
I feel like it only plays during that whole arc, the Rey and Sauna and the whole Sako getting back together and everything.
The only other place I think it could be, and like take this with a grain of salt because I do not know this for sure, it is simply a vibe, a guess, but it could be in the Takeshi Gojo arc.
That's possible. Yeah,
it feels like it could be there.
I'd have to rewatch that again, which I will eventually, but again, you know,
like,
we should.
But we're not going to do that.
I plan on doing a video about it. We should do a video collaboration on that topic.
Are you sure you want that from me?
Heck yeah.
Oh man, bless you. You're a good friend. Me ranting on your YouTube channel to your beloved subscribers. We can chat about that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, I didn't really have anything else to add on the Sako and Rey situation. What about you?
I don't think I have anything either. I think my next notes are on a coffee date between our 3 boys.
Yes, that's a good scene. It's funny because my I remember I showed my dad Kodocha and he thought that scene was just hilarious because of how absurd it was.
It is a little. I love the transition of like Rey like closing the car door and being like, I guess Sana's still mad, and then just like Akito and Tsuyoshi are just there is chef's kiss. So funny.
So one thing I'd like to mention about that scene is in the English version, they made it more comical. So like Akito says, okay, we need to talk. And Rey is just like, okay, kind of giving that comedic effect. But in the Japanese version, Rey just kind of goes along with it, and he's like, okay, so what's going on? And then they cut to the next scene, and I actually liked how they did it in the English version a lot better.
That's fair.
Because it was like it was way more awkward, which is how I feel like it would have been if it really happened in real life.
Oh, 100%. And John Bergmeyer giving us like the line reads of the century in this episode.
Right.
Just an absolute gift of a man. Like I just really love what he does with Rey. And now also, now that you're watching Fruits Basket, I'm sure you're getting a kick out of him as Shigure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's
so
really he at first he was kind of just like, he seemed like the cool older wise father figure, and then the further I've gotten along, he's gotten like really like, sometimes it's like kind of like, ew.
Oh yeah. And let me tell you something, they toned down Shigure. Two things. First thing, the 2019 version is a lot closer to the manga. The 2001 version of Fruits Basket, they upped anything perverted about Shigure to like an 11.
Oh wow.
So the 2019 version sticks way closer to the manga, and so he's a lot less that way than he was in the 2001 version of the show. If you ever watch the 2001 version, that was just what we thought of as comedy at the time, and I have to like, remember that sometimes, but again, with him being as talented a voice actor as he is, some of those line reads, even if the content's not great, are really funny. because he's a good voice actor. Okay, soapbox done. But yeah, the coffee date, I do agree that line read is really excellent and really added to the kind of awkward comedy of that scene. Something I gotta note about the coffee date scene is I feel like in the original slash Japanese version, like the source of conflict is like Akito's expectation that they be treated like adults. And in the English version, they kind of turned it into the conflict of like Rey using Sauna for money, like the dirty money scene, like line. I was like, what? Where did this come from?
Yeah, I personally, like, even when I first watched that scene, I didn't really get it all that much. I felt like it could have been done differently. Like it only really makes sense though, like when we have it wasn't in this episode, it was in a later episode. Aono, Tsuyoshi's younger sister and the chicken egg. And that's kind of what it's hinting at a little bit, but I felt like it could have done that a little better, I think.
Yeah, it's something that I find interesting is I do think that like this is the first sighting of one of like Akito has many chips on his shoulder, but one of them that we revisit throughout the series is that he does not subscribe to the cultural expectations around respect. You know, like it's commented on a lot in the manga, like, you know, oh, he uses such impolite language, you know, such a rude boy, all of those things. And I think that's just because he wants to be treated as an equal. And so like you see it with like Mr. Sengoku, you see it with like there's just stuff he hates about like being a child. And that's kind of, I think that this is like the preview into that piece of his character. And so I thought it was like weird that they just made it about something else entirely, like instead of like interpreting his anger more accurately, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I feel like that could have been handled better. But again, I feel like a lot of that part of Aikido, we don't really see a whole lot in the anime. It's not visited.
No, you're right.
So they probably just didn't really, when they were making the dub, they probably didn't put a lot of emphasis on that. Which honestly, I feel like they should have. I feel like that's a very important aspect of his character. And I find it really interesting because I've kind of always had that mentality myself. Like, you know, in the Japanese version, I know he says something like, I don't respect adults. I can't remember the exact line. I should have wrote it down, but something like I don't show respect to adults. I don't have respect for just because they're adults, basically something like that.
Yeah, which is really goes against the grain of that cultural expectation around respect.
Yeah. And even as an American, like I feel like we have that to some degree. Like we're taught early on to respect our elders, respect our parents, blah 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 blah, you know. And that's something that I kind of struggle with. Like if I don't care how old you are, if like you do something that makes me not respect you, then why should I talk to you with respect? And I don't do that in real life, but I have that mentality, I guess. Like it's something that I've kind of struggled with. So like to see it more touched on in the anime would have been really relatable, at least for me. And I'm sure other people feel the same way too. Like they might have difficulties with, you know, showing respect to people that they just don't have respect for, especially adults. Like as a kid, you know, I don't want to be respectful to an adult that's like I feel like is in the wrong, you know what I mean?
Oh, completely understand.
So I believe we talked about the song Goodbye Love, and so we get more about we talked about the Rey flashback. And one little subtle difference that I wanted to note, in the manga, Sana's going through her journal, and that's how she's reflecting on her time when she met Rey and he was homeless, and she brought him home. And in the anime, she's not reading her journal. She's just kind of laying there and thinking about it. And I thought that was interesting, like to know that Sana keeps a journal.
Yeah, I think because it's interesting because she has like all of her journals and it's like 1992, 1993, like listed by year, but there's no journal for 94, which is presumably the year that the show starts. So that's interesting. I wonder, does she stop journaling when she turns 11? I don't think this is referenced ever again.
Yeah, I would like to know though, because like I always kept a journal all the time, so I thought that
Mm.
was really neat. And
Same.
you
I
know,
was also a big journaler.
oh yeah, I still do it sometimes, not as much as I used to, but yeah, I thought that was a nice little detail, like into what Sauna does when she's at home and by herself, which would have been cool in the anime. I know
Yeah.
like an anime like Marmalade Boy, like I remember the main character journaling like often.
Yeah. It's a wonderful practice. And I feel like especially too when you're that age, like you're so filled with feelings and emotions and hormones and like all of that stuff. Like I journaling really centered me and helped calm me down when I was that age.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
And a fantastic thing. So I like the idea that Sana journals. Okay, I think my next thoughts are kind of on the Rey and Sana conversation in the hallway / translation fixation of the week. Do you have anything from the previous scene?
I do not.
Okay, my translation fixation of the week. And this is such a throwaway line. It was such a stupid thing for me to get obsessive over, but here's where I am. Rey and Sana are talking in the hallway about how Sana ditched him at the school and went to work by herself
Mm-hmm.
and is presumably not riding in the car with Rey right now because she is angry with him. So, she gives that line about how like they've got a field trip the next day and that she does not need a ride from him on that day. So in the Japanese version, both in the anime and in the manga, the line is "I'm going home with friends." And I found it very interesting that in both the manga and the anime English versions, it was "I'll get a ride with my friends," which I just feels interesting to me because like the US is a car dependent society.
Mm-hmm.
And Japan is not in the same way. It's much more common to walk or take the train. And so I just thought that was really, especially for younger people, like that's how they get around typically is by walking or taking the train.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Japanese children have significantly more autonomy in traveling without adult supervision than we do in the US, just societal differences. But I thought that was really interesting that they were like, well, how do you they like made the assumption of the car, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually that interesting, but I got a little too into it
No, I think that's pretty
this
cool.
week.
I didn't really honestly think that deeply into it, and I think that's really cool that you picked up on that.
It's just yeah, because it was one of those things where like, oh, I kind of observed this vaguely when watching the English version of the episode. And then when I was reading the English version of the manga, I was like, wait a second, I don't feel like that's what they said. And now, to be even more annoying than I already was, I can now reference the Japanese version of the manga and look at what's actually said. And I don't think that's like that's not one of those translation changes that I'm like, how dare you do this very important change? It's just an interesting localization choice, I guess I would say.
Mhm.
Something that they're doing to make it more accessible or understandable to people who are from a car dependent society like we are.
Yeah, that's
That's it. That's all I
interesting.
have on that scene. How about you?
I didn't really have anything honestly, but that was really, like I said, that was neat that you picked up on that because I just really didn't write any notes on it. I didn't really
It,
find it super significant.
yeah, you're not wrong
Um,
because it's not. It's just my fixation of the week.
I don't know. I think it's another one of those interesting cultural differences that is very subtle, and you know me, I like details and subtlety, so.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for humoring me as always. You are too good to me.
So
I guess after that we go into the field trip, right?
yeah, one more thing I wanted to
Oh,
mention.
sorry.
So you're fine. Um, this goes back to Akito and Tsuyoshi in this episode. And I don't know if you picked up on it, or if it even is significant at all. Another one of those things. It's like I just want to bring it up because it's a difference and it might interest somebody who's listening to this podcast right now. But I thought it was interesting how the "we're rivals" scene,
Yes.
um, in the manga it happens before they confront Rey, but it in the anime it happens after they have their scene in the coffee shop.
Hmm.
And it's also doesn't take place in Akito's room. It takes place as they're walking home from the situation, which I thought was kind of an interesting change. Just wanted to bring that up in case anybody found that to be interesting or significant at all. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, the rivals conversation. I really love that scene. I think it's also just like really great classic Kodocha comedy. You know,
Hmm.
the train passes at the perfect time, and Tsuyoshi like, "Wait, what did you say?" And Akito's like, "I'm not saying it again. Like, I will not
Yeah.
be doing that." And I also find it really funny too that the translation is the same for both the Japanese and the English. That like rival, rubber soul, rustle, like it's the same words. Um,
Yeah.
like there's, and I just find that really interesting that they were using that many English loan words in the original.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that they did that because
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it honestly when I watched it in Japanese.
You're picking up new things. And I am too, actually, from because I have not watched this episode in English since I caught it on Funimation in
Oh,
English
cool.
a billion years ago. So, and honestly, like kind of a random thought, but Laura Bailey gives just like an amazing vocal performance every episode. But my God, is she good in this one? Um,
Yeah, she's amazing.
oh my gosh, she's just really doing the most.
So
Ah,
let's talk about
is
the
it
field
field trip
trip.
time?
Yeah.
Let's go. So one line that they changed, and it's a stupid one, but it's one of my favorites from the episode, is Sana telling Akito, like, "You're making me feel all gross and weird." And they just cut it. And I was like, oh, but that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Also,
agree.
you're getting me. I've said Akito instead of Akito like probably 2 or 3 times this episode. You are rubbing off on me.
Yeah,
It's happening.
like I was kind of doing Akito like when I started Fruits Baskets
Uh-huh.
and there's that character Akito,
Yes.
which by the way, I'm terrified of him.
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
what's going on there, but no, I'm not
So
gonna
many
spoil
things.
anything. I have no idea yet actually.
Oh my God, I
I'm
cannot.
still like I just got past like the halfway mark of season 2 or season 1, so yeah, but
You have you have to like you just have to message me the minute you get to a particular episode in season 2. And then
all
another
right.
particular episode in season 3. You'll know
Oh
which
wow,
ones.
okay. Okay.
Um you'll know as they're happening to you. I'm gonna need to be consulted immediately. Um
But
anyway.
so it's actually, you know, in the Japanese they say Akito, which is how it's supposed to be pronounced. But my first experience was the English dub, so I brought
Yeah.
it in my head. Akito, Akito,
Keto.
Akito, Akito.
Keto. Yeah. And now you're rubbing off on me. Oh my
Sorry.
gosh. Oh, it's fine. I'll power through. Yes. What else from the field trip? I have a couple of thoughts, but
This is the first time that we don't really find out about this character, but we get more of a focus on Aya, actually. So all the
yes.
girls are kind of gathered around her, and she's like, "Oh, I have a crush on somebody in our class," and I think it's Hisei. She's like, "She won't tell us who it is," and I think Sauna made a joke. She's like, "Why don't you go plant a big kiss on him?"
Yes. And
And I feel like as a first time viewer, like we're probably thinking that maybe she's gonna be in love with Akito, like to set up some sort of rivalry, maybe.
mm,
But we eventually find out who it is, and it's pretty adorable once we do.
I know. I love them so much. Oh, I love it. I also that little reference that you're making, I did find it really funny that in the manga when they're walking, and Sana says that like plant a big smooch on him or whatever, a kid in their class who does not look familiar and I do not think has a name. He's like, "Oh, Sana, you're like you're wild or like you're too crazy or something like that." And then he like looks at Akito and he's like, "Did you hear her?" And Akito says, "No," like a liar.
Yeah,
Like,
I noticed that. I
like,
thought that was kind of weird. I feel like did
because
they
you
have that
definitely heard that.
yeah, did they have that scene in the anime with
They
Tsuyoshi
didn't.
instead of that kid or
No, they just didn't
okay.
they didn't pay much mind to it. And I do think it's funny too, because I think in both, well, a couple of things. Well, in the manga, that chapter ends with the fallout of the kiss, whereas episode 9 begins with the fallout of the kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And in both, Akito's like, "What? You said like this should be like normal and fine for you, right? Like what's a big deal?" And then Sana admits that she was saving her first kiss for Rey, but it does kind of prove that like, yeah, he was listening.
Yeah.
Like a liar, our little lying boy. How dare.
I love him though.
I do too.
He just he just does what he does, and he literally gives no Fs.
None, not a one. I do well, but then it is kind of funny too. I think I've said this before, but like how one of my favorite things about Akito is the fact that like he is equal parts like impulsive decision making and obsessing. And there's like no in between. He is either spiraling and obsessing and overthinking something like way too much, like example, getting Sauna a Christmas present
Mhm.
or birthday present for middle birthday. I love how he is like so focused and overthinking like what to get her.
Mhm.
But then he'll also like completely follow his impulses, like every single kiss they have in the anime.
Yeah.
Like that, there was not a lot of forethought there, I think. It's just like, don't put your face next to mine then. Something I noticed with the field trip scene, like just before the kiss, is like Sana, I think in the Japanese version, she's like when she spills the juice on him, she's just like, and, like makes a weird noise and stuff. And they lengthened the footage in the English version, you know, because her mouth isn't moving at all, but you hear her saying like, I'm so sorry, I'm so clumsy. And I just thought that was like interesting.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that right away, but after I watched it and I thought about it, I was like, something in there felt longer, and I couldn't remember what it was, but I knew it was somewhere in the end, and yeah, that's interesting.
I think it was that, which I think like Laura Bailey could have made an extremely hilarious, incomparable like vocal sound that would have,
Yeah.
I think, had a similar feeling, just that like, you know,
And by
kind
the
of
way,
strangled sound. But
that scream that she does after they get done kissing is like, it's gold. It is
so good.
golden.
Oh my God, yes. And hats off to any and all Sana Karada voice actresses for really committing to that
Hmm.
particular bit. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
good. It's so good. And then there's the kiss itself, which is just, you know, life altering.
Yep.
I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. The only other thing I think I have for this is just sort of a manga thought that leads into an anime thought, which is that Sana Kurata is a fashion icon. I love all of her outfits in the manga. I think are so cute. And I will maybe never forgive the anime for cutting most of her cute outfits. But
Yeah.
they kept this one for the kiss, and it's helping me move
Oh
through
yeah.
this.
Yeah, they I was watching on one of the DVDs, Funimation DVDs where they
Mhm.
interview the director, and he talked about how the animation team, like towards the second half of the first season, how they were getting like overworked and exhausted because of like how many outfits they've had to do for Sana. And so that's why in a lot of the later episodes, like once you're reaching the Takashi arc, she's kind of just wearing her normal pink sauna shirt a lot of the
Mm,
times, and she's not wearing her cute outfits as often anymore. Which is a
yeah.
shame, but I can kind of understand that, like from the artist perspective, the animators, like that would be exhausting, especially if you were on like some sort of strict time limit to finish episodes. So, but still, I wish they would have stuck more to the fashion from the manga.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's also like it is something kind of interesting too, because like the reason that they kind of do that is so that they can reuse as much footage as possible. And
Hmm.
something and that's also just something to note about like how anime was produced at the time was with one just with very little time, and a very unforgiving production schedule. And they were also producing like a lot more episodes per series than they would today. There's 50 episodes in season one, like,
Hmm.
or 51 episodes in season one of Kodocha, which, is more episodes than some series have in their entirety these days.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So I completely understand like why. And I think I've said this before, like I would take like 35 like really high quality, well produced episodes of Kodocha over 102 kind of thrown together things personally.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure we'll get to it eventually, but I felt like the ending of the anime was a bit of a mess.
Oh, yes, we are in agreement there. And they just it was the classic, the anime has overtaken the manga and they weren't able to tread water anymore, and so they just snapped.
Yeah, but I personally think things in the anime industry they're taking a good direction at the moment, and I
Oh, I
think
agree.
I really do think it's possible that Kodocha could get a new rebooted series. And it may not be in English, but I do believe that it is very possible in Japan. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will. I so I feel like something that I really appreciate about you is your eternal optimism for the future of Kodocha, whereas I'm, significantly less optimistic. Like for me, like I could die happy if we get a reprint of the manga in North America, which is, I know, setting sights like extremely low. And who knows what's going to happen. And I would love to be wrong, but it's also been a lot of years of not say disappointment, but
Nothing.
it's not it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard being a Kodocha fan. We're a small but mighty fan base. We are growing, and I'm so thankful for that, and thankful for the community that we found in each other and with our server and with our friends on Twitter and other platforms. But it's been a lot of years of disappointment,
Oh yeah, and
from Tokyo Pop losing the manga license to Funimation not dubbing season 2 to, all of those things.
and like you said, you've been with it for like 20 years. I've only known about it for 6 or 7, so I'm sure eventually I might feel the same way that you do. And plus you were watching it when it was airing on Funimation, right?
Yeah, I didn't actually have access to that channel on a full-time basis. That was for
Oh
people
yeah.
with cable, which I did not have. But I happened to catch it while I was babysitting.
Okay.
And so then I
So
went home to the YouTube and watched the sub back in the day.
so yeah, so you were kind of, what year was that when you first saw it again?
2006. So I actually just did the
Yeah.
mental math. It's 16 years, not 20. I rounded up by a solid 4, but like still,
Yeah,
it's been
that's
a
still a
long
long
haul.
time. Yeah, that's a
Over half
long
of my
time.
life.
And yeah, I mean you were watching it right when the dub had just come out. It had only been out like a year, I think, right?
Not even. I think it was a little less than that, because I remember finding out somehow that the DVDs started being produced a little bit after the series had already started airing on the Funimation channel.
Hmm.
Because I think I definitely consumed the whole series on YouTube by the time the DVDs came out,
Yeah.
or most of it at least, because I remember, and you can see these on YouTube, on eBay. They had, I think through Best Buy, Funimation released a box, a purple Kodocha box that had Babbitt on it, and it had the first DVD in it with the first 4 episodes and a black like purse messenger bag thing that had an embroidery of Babbitt on it,
Yeah.
that they were selling at Best Buy for like, I don't know, $50 or something stupid, that I like remember saving up my 13-year-old money, begging for a ride to my local Best Buy so that I could buy it. And so so I think it was pre-DVD release
Oh, okay.
that I found it, because they weren't being released at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But I
I've seen that bag on eBay
You have.
before.
I'm actually very salty about it because I lost it. Something happened to it. I don't
Oh.
know. I don't have it anymore. And people are selling those for like $80 on eBay. I'm like, I could make $80 if I still had it.
Yeah, out of all the
Apparently.
merch, like that one, like if I see one for super cheap, I'll eventually get it because that's how I've kind of been doing with Kodocha stuff. Like I'll
Hmm.
see something that I want, and I'll be like, I don't want to pay that much for it, and just wait and see if
Yeah.
it comes cheaper, and it eventually it does. But if it's like a super rare thing, I might get it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Those
I've
bags
been.
were mass produced, and I think it's crazy that that people are charging so much for them. But
Yeah, and they're not even that interesting,
they're
honestly.
not. And as somebody who has held one in my hands and can confirm, it's a very small bag. It is, you can fit 2 DVDs inside. I know this because I used to transport my Kodocha DVDs inside the Babbitt
Oh,
bag.
that's cute.
I had the first 2, but it's a really slim, it's really small. And I just remember feeling at the time too, I was like, even like with my limited 13-year-old fashion sense, I was like, I have no way to style this bag. Like this bag is like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. I love this anime. I'd love to represent this anime, but like this bag is kind of ugly and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. Like
I'm totally with you, because like I thought it was just me. Like I would see it come up on eBay and it's like, I feel like as a collector I should get this, but like I just feel it looks like it's some sort of thing that like somebody just made. Like they took a black bag they bought on like some site that like you buy stuff on to like customize, and then they just put that on there.
Yeah, the only thing I will say about it is that if memory serves, the Babbit on the bag is embroidered and like decently high quality. I just remember being like, why couldn't you have put this on like a backpack or a bigger bag that I could actually hold things in, you know?
Right.
But yeah, that's one of those pieces where I personally, like, having had one and having had like lost it somewhere along the way, I'm not that sad that I did, and I certainly wouldn't buy it again. The thing I missed the most is I also misplaced that purple box, and that's the one that I kind of wish I still had, honestly.
Yeah, I get you.
But what are you gonna do? Time passes, you move, you lose things when you move. That is just the nature of, you know, adult life, I guess.
I'm still not over the fact I lost my original Game Boy Advance when I moved to a new state.
That is tragic. What color did you have of the Game Boy Advance?
Dark blue.
Oh, you had the dark blue. I had the glacial blue. We were
nice.
We were sisters in Game Boy Advance colors. I had the like, what was it, Arctic blue, glacial blue, something like that. The like purpley translucent one.
Oh yeah.
You know the type.
Yeah.
Good times.
All right. So is there anything else that you had to add about episode 8 today?
The only other thing I have is it was just one little manga note, and it's that they cut the origin of Rey's sunglasses from the anime.
Oh yeah.
It's like they showed that little like, Rey smiled for the first time. I thought he was so cute that I put a mask on his face, and Mama said that was not very functional for him, and so she gave me sunglasses. And they have like, and Obana draws the art of like young Sauna putting the sunglasses on Rey, and I do kind of wish they'd kept that in the anime, but I'm, you know, stuff gets cut for time. I get it.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So just like anime only watchers have no idea why Rey wears sunglasses, other than that Sauna wants him to, and it's never explained why.
All right, so, well, that's about it for me.
Yeah, I think that's it for me too. We've this is a long one.
Oh yeah.
Godspeed as we go through the editing process. Thank you, friends, for listening. We are gearing up for probably another guest appearance within the next couple of months. So if you have any interest in joining us here on 19 O'Clock News, please reach out. We would love to have you on the show.
Yes, it's always fun to talk to other Kodocha fans, get different opinions on things. And I feel like every time I talk to somebody in our Discord, I learn something new about the series. So definitely either in the Discord or contact us through Discord. I definitely want to have more guests on the podcast because it's so much fun, and I feel like we learn a lot.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you guys listened. We had a party with Lee last month.
Oh, yeah.
It was fantastic. We had a great time. So you too could have a great time. Just let us know.
Yes.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to 19 O'Clock News, a Kodocha podcast.
19 O'Clock News is hosted by That Kodocha Girl and Mahou Shoujo M.
We love making new friends. Feel free to join us in the Kodocha Discord under Kodocha_media.
19 O'Clock News is not affiliated with any current or previous rights holders to Kodomo no Omocha by Miho Obana.